365 Days of Horsemanship, day 88. Wow, we're nearly at day 100. I'm going to have to try and find a way to celebrate that. I'll have a think about it. Not too bad of a day today. I'm still reading my book. Let me just find it for you. I've conveniently covered it right underneath everything else. I have found out what I think is the correct pronunciation. It is Reine Klimke. So happy to find that out. If I'm wrong, please do correct me. Yeah. Read again for another half an hour, which was nice. Talked about today, reading about the sort of 6 stages of training with this 7th one added in, which is about obedience. And it was interesting to read a lot about how there's a lot, like a theme all the way through, that it's like you don't progress on until you've got sort of the first piece. So things like collection should really only happen once the horse is loose and supple and rhythmic and obedient, and then they've worked on their impulsion, and they are correct with the aids, and that was firstly interesting and nice to see, nice to hear, and made me feel like that that I agreed with that. And it was nice because definitely I think it was kind of like a stab in the dark, this book, to kind of see where I would be feeling. And I'm happy to feel positive about it. And there was also some focus and emphasis on the importance of the warm up and the warm down for the horse. Like this idea of like loosening the horse, and actually in a young horse that takes a really long time, like 15 to 20 minutes, and it's really important not to rush that. And then also at the end to have this drying off phase for the horse, kind of for them to collect their peace and their thoughts. And then he also talked about how you can tell with some horses, some older, more trained horses that are more stiff and more tight through the back, that actually they haven't been allowed to loosen off or to dry off for quite a long time, and they've lost that part of the training, either through ignorance or through time rushing the horse through, or just simply the rider not wanting to do it. And so that was really interesting, because I think that's definitely something that I've always known about, something that I think has always seemed important to me, but it was nice to hear it from somebody, who is right at the top. And it's nice to hear that. I think there's this idea of like traditional horsemanship as being cruel somehow. And definitely this idea of like never getting, there was this one sentence that was about just always avoiding conflict with the horse, and if you're getting into a conflict with the horse, to slow down and go back to a stop and take a different exercise that's easier for the horse to regain that trust and connection, because forcing a horse through the exercise is never going to create a horse that wants to move, and then you're never going to be successful. Which I obviously completely agree with, and it's nice to hear that in a book that is just kind of by a dressage guy. And definitely I know the Klimkes are sort of not right at the toughest end of the spectrum anyway, but definitely I'm really happy that I chose this book, and I went out sort of feeling more impassioned about the idea that I can introduce a little bit of stress, and as long as I'm paying attention to the horse that I'm providing this stress to, and I'm working within what the horse is able to deal with, and I'm not forcing, then that's great, and that's super, and we can work through things together. And I think it's also about having that patience. I think I'm definitely very adverse to putting my horses through stress. I think in the past, definitely if you saw me play, it would look different, but I think it's definitely easy for me. It's like 2 extremes. Like either I don't want to put any pressure on them at all, or I get like really task focused, and then it's like, we are going to achieve this thing, And then I've sort of forgotten about the fact that if the horse doesn't enjoy the journey, then the outcome is not gonna be, I'm gonna feel satisfied in the moment that I achieved the outcome, but we didn't achieve the outcome. And so moving forward, I'm not gonna be able to achieve that outcome again, because the horse is gonna have a negative association with that conversation that we had. So I came out today, went to Mia first. Mia, it was okay. I think with Mia, it's like she either chooses to be interested or she's not interested. And if she's not interested, then it's a very different session. When she's interested at the moment, I do feel like we're making a lot of headway. And when we're having these really interesting sessions, things are happening that I've not experienced with her before. Yeah, you know, yesterday I was able to really massage her and really dig into that, and that was going really well. And it seemed like she was really engaged with that, and, you know, she came to meet me and all of that. Today, that didn't really happen, and she just wanted to eat grass. And so I did a little bit of flow with her, just moving around different spots, trying to change my position on like the smallest like eye flick towards me, or a moment where her emotions seemed to soften and she seemed a little bit more happy or in that like state of enjoyment. And then I tried a little bit of massage, different places, but there wasn't really anything that seemed to be interesting to her. Like there was a little bit of where she would, if I was massaging her hips, like she would like stand against me so that she could like have the pressure. But it wasn't, I didn't really feel like it was going anywhere. And my arms sort of tired out before she made any kind of focus changes that I noticed. It's possible that, you know, maybe I just need to look for smaller things on those days, be more observant of the eyes and the ears. But then I feel like I get very focused on every single, you know, movement that she does, and then it feels almost predatory. So maybe that's something I just need to work on, is just becoming more aware of those tiny movements without like focusing on them in a really negative way. I did a little bit of itching. I was able to, she did look up at me once or twice. She wasn't completely ignoring me the whole time. And I would say that her energy is softer now. I would say it feels like, you know, she looked up at me when I came in, and it does feel generally like we are doing things together. I can see that she's kind of moving sort of with me, and there's like an interaction, like she's engaged with my general presence, even though she doesn't want to interact with me. But I was able to, we had a nice moment where we sort of like touched nose to hand, and I thought, oh, I could end it there. And I thought, oh no, well, I'll try for another cycle. And then I just couldn't, I don't know, get anything. So I started itching right up her neck, and I itched all the way up her mane to her head, and then I started itching her head, and that made her pick her head up from the floor. And she picked her head up and touched nose to hand, and I just moved to a different spot in front of her, and I was just watching her for a couple seconds, and I thought, yeah, that was good, that was it. Because it takes me a couple of seconds, I think, just to kind of process that that's happened and decide that that's my moment. I think I'm often late in leaving. I probably should just leave straight away, but I don't know. So then I came back in, knelt down next to her, and just offered my hand to her, and it did take her a couple of seconds, but then she did just come and just really gently mouth at my hand, and I sort of like, I think I kind of use that as my goodbye, where it's just like, hey, like, just like a interaction between us, and then I leave. And I wanted to, a couple times recently, I've gone to leave and then I've got distracted by doing something else, like taking a picture or whatever, and she's come up behind me and we've extended the session because she's decided she wants me to stay. And so I wanted to give her that opportunity again, and so I stopped in the field and just looked out across and at Lawrence, trying to kind of decide what was going on, where I was going next. And he looked up at me and started walking towards me. I looked back and Mia hadn't really moved, so I just left. Then I went to Lawrence. I took the halter with me, but I didn't start with it straight away. And initially we started with yields. He's kind of lost interest in the massage. I tried a little bit of it here and there, and he will direct me to where he wants me, but then I'll start massaging and he'll start grazing. And with him, I don't really want to massage him while he's grazing, because I feel like it's not something that I want him to feel like he can disconnect from. You know, like I'm not his massaging slave. Like if he would like to engage with that process and use it as a workout and engage with me and be fully present in the massage, then that is totally fine. We can do that for the whole session. But for me, as soon as he starts eating, that's when I go, okay, this is not interesting enough for you that you're not thinking about something else. That's it. Like that's the end. Like I'll move on, do something else. So I'm also changing positions on that focus change, which I think is good. So I did a little bit of that, worked a little bit on the yields. They've just been opened up into kind of like a kind of windy area where it's easier to get in each other's way. So there was a little bit more movement today anyway in the herd. So we're moving quite a bit. And then with the yields, I think I just don't have that much patience with them to do like 100 yields in a session. I guess that's where I need to work on myself a little bit. So I got the halter and came out and worked with the halter again. And initially it was better. Initially we were much more curious. It was like he'd learned that the answer to the halter question is to be curious about it. And then I think the more I did it, even though I was having my good timing with like letting him sniff it and then move away, had a couple of bad timings where I just tried to stretch the amount of time I left it there for, rather than like literally the moment that he was curious taking it away. I just tried to like hold it there for like 1 second and then move away. And like even that was enough to, I was walking away as it happened, but enough to like move him, to make him feel like he needed to then walk away, move his feet. And then I think after doing that a couple of times, he kind of lost his confidence a little bit, and then he started walking or started ignoring me. And so I really wanted to get through that. So I just kept going, and I found a nice little pattern where I would come up to like his shoulder and I would like offer the halter and the line to him down near his nose. He could just look up and touch his nose to it and have a look. And then he wouldn't. So I would then walk all the way around the back of him, come all the way around past his tail, all the way around to the other side, and do the same thing. And then back again, like in a little U, basically until he decided to be curious about it. And then I went back into flow. And that took a little while, and then he was curious about it. Then he felt the need to move just a couple steps, and then he stopped. We had a nice couple of moments of flow together. We were looking around, looking at the herd, doing all that stuff. And we had a nice lick and chew, and he turned and touched his nose to my hand. And it did feel like he was really present in that moment. Like he wasn't shut down, like he really had like turned to me and looked at me and acknowledged me and had his focus on me. And so I just kind of said good boy and gave him a scratch, and then I left on that. So it's good sessions. Definitely I would like to feel more accomplished with Mia. I definitely feel accomplished with Lawrence. I feel like the yields and the massage and the halter are good things to be working on, and I just kind of interchange those based on the mood and the feeling. I think definitely I think the massage, as long as he's interested in it, is like the easy session. I think I need to also be careful not to expect too much of him by not doing enough flow at the beginning of the session. I think it's really easy to get lazy and just come straight in and start working on what I want to work on. And actually what I need to do is come in and like almost warm his mind up, you know, by just spending that time in flow with him, just connecting, just reading the energy, doing some breath work. It's really easy to get focused on my goals for the session instead of taking that time first to connect with him with no expectations. And so I think I really need to just suck it up and do that, whether or not, you know, I want to just get straight on, because that's definitely something that I want all the time, is just to get on, get what I want to do done, and then crack on with everything else I have to do. So I think definitely learning to slow down is good. And yeah, with Mia, I don't know, it was okay, it was good. Yeah, I don't really know what to do with her when she doesn't offer the interaction, definitely. And she's offering the interaction more recently, but who knows if that will change or go backwards. And I definitely need to figure out what I want to do those days that I need to be able to, like those days when she does feel like that. So we'll give it some thought and do some more experimentation, and yeah, see what we come up with.